Have you checked the children? Your little master.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime in Fuego, and if you please, you join me here for a bit of palaver and hail to Stephen King! That's Reezy, baby. And originally, today's episode was going to be some additional discussion about The Stand. However, there was some big breaking news that hit just yesterday on Friday. And so here on the weekly worship of Sai King here on the horror show El Rey, as I so affectionately call him, I had to discuss whether Edgar Wright is the right person to be remaking none other than The Running Man. Yes, so The Running Man is the 1982 Bachman book that Stephen King put out, which pretty bleak in its just... King was really into writing that dystopian stuff at the time, whether it was, you know, The Long Walk a few years before, or this novella of sorts. And I must admit, I found this news intriguing because of the fact that I pretty much love everything that Edgar Wright has done. However, if you want something that's going to be more like akin to that like bleak kind of nastiness of the source material, and they're actually saying currently that this is going to be more faithful to the source material. Apparently, Edgar Wright has been interested in doing this since 2017, which is kind of crazy to think about, but yes, it's finally seemingly happening at Paramount. Simon Kinberg producing, which, yeah, that makes me a little hesitant. I mean, he's had lots of hits and then lots of misses. Dark Phoenix. But yeah, long story short, that like if it's going to be, as they are proclaiming, more faithful to the tone, do you really go and get somebody like Edgar Wright, who was, I mean, his films are stylistic and very slick and beautifully directed, but the tone of pretty much everything that he has done, whether it's Scott Pilgrim or, you know, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, you know, the Baby Driver, I mean, pretty much everything that he does is very lighthearted in tone. And the screenwriter that he's apparently pairing with to actually put this script together, that, once again, they are adamantly saying it's going to be more faithful to the source material. I honestly really enjoy the Arnold Schwarzenegger film from 1987. It's very loosely based. Like, his Ben Richards is pretty much nothing like the everyman fighting for family, and especially with how the novella ends versus how the book ends. I mean, spoilers, like flying planes into like network towers of nasty you know, corruption and whatnot. But yeah, the Schwarzenegger film was very enjoyable for what it was, and I mean, this is, you know, before so many of these, like, you know, Hunger Games and you know, various other stuff which epitomized the death competition sort of thing that King was obviously fascinated with. But there was kind of a campy, cheesy fun to that Schwarzenegger film, and the fact that it derailed the spectacle and the just almost you know, like Roman gladiator sort of games in a, well, 2017 is when the movie is supposed to take place, you know, but yeah, it's just, it still had something to say, you know. There was a lot of underlying subtext, and you had like Jim Brown and Jesse Ventura and, you know, Schwarzenegger at the epitome of his like late 80s, hamming it up after he was well established, you know. And so even though his Ben was drastically different in a lot of ways, I still really enjoy that movie. And yet, the fact that you know, Edgar Wright is so adamant about remaking this, it's a very curious decision. I do not doubt for a second that it's not going to be beautifully directed and as just slick and stylistic as everything else that he has done. I think one of the hallmarks is going to be what this Last Night in Soho kind of becomes tone-wise, because pretty much everything, as I said, that he's done has had that camp factor, and especially if they're recruiting the 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street screenwriter Michael, something that's it's eluding me at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, it's an intriguing you know, just pairing and decision, but yeah, is it going to be as additionally faithful as, you know, nasty and mean-spirited and stuff like that, because all those early Bachman books, man, I mean, they have that just nasty cynicism to them in a lot of ways, and The Running Man is obviously no exception. So is it really going to go for it is probably the biggest thing that I am curious about in this regard, and just how much that, as they're proclaiming, it's going to be so much more significantly faithful in that regard. Like, will it be? You know, because of the fact that so many people, so many peeps in the Hail Ka-Tet have been clamoring for a redo on this, and especially one that, you know, was more faithful in that just really dreary tone. You know, I mean, dystopian storytelling is obviously, it doesn't typically end well for our protagonists. And in this regard, Ben basically, you know, he goes into this deathmatch competition of sorts, and really, at the end of the day, it's him trying to stick it to this network that is making so much money off of the bloodshed and the exploitation and all of this different stuff. So yeah, it's interesting how King has kind of veered away from this sort of storytelling that he was very fond of, you know, especially in his earlier years when he was in his 20s, but I you know, 20s and 30s and whatnot. But yeah, man, I will definitely say that I am intrigued by this, but I'm not probably like a lot of people jumping around and supremely stoked as others may be. Now, once again, Last Night in Soho is Edgar Wright's upcoming film. Stars Anya Taylor-Joy, and it is, you know, supposedly his first like full-on you know, divergence into horror. That is not of the, you know, just like slapsticky comedic variety, because I mean, you think about Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, that World's End, I think, was the third in that trilogy. I know there's some sort of title for, you know, those films that he made with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg and whatnot, but I mean, dare I say it, everything Edgar Wright has done has been lighthearted. So just to double down on the fact, I believe that this new Running Man for Paramount will be a beautiful looking movie. The one thing that you cannot deny about Simon Kinberg's X-Men movies, which thankfully that era is donezo, because as much as oh boy, I mean, I enjoyed what he did with, you know, man, I'm just thinking about those films now, and the last two, Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix specifically. I think Simon Kinberg directed Dark Phoenix himself, if I recall. So he makes good-looking movies. I mean, he has his fingers in, you know, so many different, you know, creative projects, because once you're at the producer level, you know, your money just rolls unless you have some significant failures. And so I do not doubt for a second that this is going to be a just, you know, very, very delightful to look at. But you do have to kind of contrast that, like, really beautiful dystopian nastiness. I don't know. This is actually going to be a very challenging assignment for Edgar Wright. Now, based on just the fact that he hasn't really, in my estimation, made a bad movie. People were just recently raving about this documentary that he had at Sundance about these two brothers who are musicians. I forget the name of it, it eludes me, but it went to rave reviews. And so he has not made a bad movie by a lot of people's estimations, but once again, I present the question, is he the right choice for this, you know, just this re-envisioning? Because they, in the Deadline story, Deadline were the ones who actually broke this, they basically said flat out, they're like, this is not a remake, you know, it is a more faithful adaptation of the source material. So is it going to go for it? Is it going to be as gritty? Because even that one with, I mean, some of those kills, man, it earned its R rating. Let's definitely put it like that. And so I still have a affinity for the very loosely based Schwarzenegger version, but I think it's also really going to come down to who they decide to cast in the role of Ben, and you know, for the evil antagonistic, you know, network peeps and stuff like that. That is really going to be the biggest thing. Are they going to go camp, and camp and kind of corny, or are they going to make a deliberate decision to really just go for that grit? That's what I'm curious about. So A little bit of a shorter episode today, obviously, but this was big enough news that I most definitely wanted to dedicate a specific discussion to it, and obviously pose that question to all of you. We also got our first glimpse yesterday at the Apple TV Plus series for Lisi's story. The Stand is finished. We're trying to find the time. I believe on Sunday is when we're actually gonna, myself, Marshall Parker, Cecil Laird, and give a full spoilery discussion about the recent CBS All Access The Stand, for better or for worse, is what I will propose there. But I'm stoked that there is at least another Stephen King announcement of a new project, because I definitely feel like, and this is another thing that's been just kind of floated by a lot of different people, is myself included, is the King-assance concluding? Has it already? Dan Corey in the Facebook group mentioned this just recently. He was like, yeah, especially after the cancellation of the Dark Tower on Amazon, and just, I mean, I don't know. I feel like some of the just momentum from the resurgence has faltered, unfortunately. And, I always try to talk positively, glass half full or whatever. But, I kind of feel like, aside from the fact that he has 2 books coming out this year, things are a little more quiet in the King camp, at least as far as adaptations go. There was the exciting announcement about the Firestarter casting, which I'm really into and curious how Blumhouse is going to go about that. And obviously Lisi's story is arriving this summer on Apple Plus, but a lot of those other projects, when there was that whirlwind of announcements, they're like, oh, they're remaking the Tommyknockers, they're remaking Salem's Lot, they're doing all these different things. I did an entire episode about every King project in its various stages of development, but in this case, with regards to The Running Man, if Edgar Wright has wanted to do it for this extensive amount of time, and he's gone on record to say if there's any one movie he could remake, redo, reboot, whatever, it would be Bachman's The Running Man. So I think that, like, if you're going to be passionate about a project, that is what I'm most intrigued by. Once again, co-writing the script, developing and directing, but once again, is he the right guy for the job if you're going to be more faithful to the source material? That is, once again, what I ask all of you, but I extend a grande gracias. I've been Jaime Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on the YouTubies. Once again, is Edgar the right choice for this? Let me know in the comments below. Greatly appreciated. And if you are down for further palaver, the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group is the destination for that. Over a GZ of peeps over there, so it's not of the massive tens of thousands like you will see in some other very prolific and prominent Stephen King groups, but I feel like the Calf and the Palaver that goes down with all of us there, it's a very tightly knit Ka-Tet of sorts, and we do a monthly book of the month, and that is none other than a book that I have talked a mad amount of smack about, but I've ironically had an interesting time in the revisiting process of it. I have already reread it, and I'm going to listen to it and give that narrator his due. But yeah, man, I'm very just honestly excited to talk about the book that it was his first post-accident, a book that he had originally titled Cancer at one point, which is really funny. And then Tabby is like, no, dude, you cannot do this. So first Saturday of March is going to be discussing that book that is now 20 years old, which is mind-blowing in that regard. And I mean, next year is going to be the anniversary of none other than the aforementioned Running Man. That came out in 1982. So this show has been going for over 250 episodes for over 4 years now, and it is a pleasure and an honor to have any sort of discussion or feedback from all of you. So once again, I've been Fuego. Y'all have been rad. Status, like, share, subscribe. All of that is greatly appreciated, and until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, and constant readers and viewers of the like, say thank you for sharing a little bit of your time with me today. I hope we do more of it sooner rather than later, and until then, remember to stay scared, and obviously, read Stephen King. Give Dreamcatcher a shot if you're brave. It's not his best, but yeah, The Running Man is definitely a delightful, just dystopian bit of darkness. So we'll see how they do with it.